The slop never stops. So recently, Resident Evil Requiem came out. And while I'm not a huge fan of the series, I would honestly say I'm more of a casual fan. I ended up picking up both the Switch 2 and the PS5 versions. And while I haven't necessarily finished them yet, I would say I have enough to, come to a conclusion about how I feel about them. And I would say that I really enjoy them. One thing I actually really enjoyed is that they kind of combine the best of both worlds in terms of Resident Evil gameplay. So, obviously, you can play as Leon and then Grace Ashcroft. In the Leon sections, it's kind of like Resident Evil 4, where you're pretty much just kind of going through a linear action set piece. You're killing enemies, you're picking up a chainsaw, you're doing all this shit, you're killing enemies. He's cracking one-liners, and hopefully he's cracking me pretty soon. But that's a story for another day. And then you have Grace Ashcroft's segments that are more similar to, I guess I would say Resident Evil 2 Remake, where they more so take the style of a Metroidvania. Where you're going out throughout this one singular area. You're finding certain clues to lead you where you need to go. There's the resource management. Pretty much, if you've played Resident Evil 2 Remake, this should be no different from what you'd expect. I also really liked a ton of the enemies that roam the hospital. I specifically really like this fat chud enemy going into areas that he can't fit in because he's too much of a fat chud. And then there's that one, area in the beginning where Grace is, kind of lost all of her items and everything. So she kind of has to, fend off against this one darkness thing. I don't remember what it was called, but I just remember, the first time I encountered it, I was like, God, what the fuck is that thing? It was honestly pretty cool and fun, not having your items at the beginning and having to get past it. And it was also really cool seeing Leon save her from that wretched beast. And also, I guess I just wanted to say another thing about the Switch 2 version. It is surprising how this is basically on par with the Steam Deck version. From what I've seen anyway, I don't actually own the PC version yet. Because I remember just a few short years ago where, Resident Evil 4 Remake on the Steam Deck was, the best you could get. And even then, that really only ran at, 30 FPS. I mean, you could do, a variable frame rate like the PS4 version, but it was best to just lock the frame rate to, 30 or 40 FPS. At least in my experience. But with this one, the NVIDIA DLSS is doing some crazy work here, because they're basically upscaling a 540p or 360p image in handheld mode to 1080p, and it looks amazing. There's practically no downsides, other than sometimes the frame rate kind of tanks to the 30s, but I mean, other than that, it's basically like you're playing a PS4 version, or I guess I'd say more specifically an Xbox Series S version, but on a handheld. And you can actually fit this handheld in your pocket instead of having to put it into a carrying case or something. It's just so crazy what we can do with handhelds nowadays, to where it's basically on par with the console versions. But, yeah, that's really all I wanted to say about Resident Evil Requiem. Resident Evil Requiem. Out.